This is Jill. Welcome back to my channel. I hope that you will like and subscribe if you find this video interesting. Let's see, I've had a long week. Kennedy, my granddaughter, still attempting to sleep in her big girl bed. I've been having to join her several nights. Yes, my side's still hurting me and it's a work in progress. I hope that you guys have had a productive week. I hope that you've gotten some things done or that you've taken care of yourself. I have a new little backdrop thing going. I'm not sure. I'm going to work on it. I found that as I did it, I was like, oh man, I've been spending way too many times watching Frozen with my granddaughter because I was like, this kind of gives me Frozen vibes. And it does. But that's okay. It's still kind of pretty. I like it. I'm going to change it up. I like changes. I like change. I'm one of these people that like change. I need change. So anyway, today we're going to be talking about another story that happened in Houston, Texas. This was actually a subscriber request. And yes, a lot of things happen here in Texas, and this happened during COVID. So it was something that I remember watching on TV. However, the courts were not really opening back up yet. So this is a case that is alleged. They have not been to trial for this, although they are in prison. But it's alleged, meaning they haven't gone to trial and they haven't gotten a conviction on them. Okay, so this is the House of Horrors in Houston, Texas, and we're going to get into it now. Okay, so on October 24th, 2021, Houston 911 would get a call from a 15-year-old boy. He would claim that he and his two brothers, ages 9 and 7, have been living alone in an apartment complex for 1 year. He said that his parents had not lived with them in a year, so the deputies then dispatched out to this apartment complex. He also told deputies that his young brother had been dead in the other room for approximately 1 year as well. So when police arrived, they arrived to a very horrific scene. This boy was telling the truth. They said when they walked into this scene, it was horrendous. It was crawling with roaches. There was no bedding. There was no furniture. The carpet was soiled. There was bugs everywhere. And the stench from the rotting body of their younger brother in the other room was horrific. And there was no parents in sight. How does this happen? How does this happen? It's an apartment complex. Well, I'm gonna tell you how this happens. Okay, so y'all are about to get mad like everybody did around here in my house and in Houston. They brought Gloria and Brian in. Okay, they found the boys, they found the deceased boy, they brought him in, and then they released him. I remember when this happened. I remember the TV. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. What is Houston? We have a serious problem. Like, what is going on? It was COVID. I don't care what it was. How are you going to release them? They later come out and said that, they were awaiting the autopsy of the little boy so they could charge for murder. But I'm like, I'm not saying they're a flight risk, but at the least, they deserve to be sitting in a cell in the dark with no food, sitting there staring with no electricity, just sitting there for hours like they've made their little boys. They did arrest him 2 days later. I'll get to that in a minute, but I just wanted to tell you how things were working around here. Okay, so they get the boys. They take them to the hospital. Of course, they're malnourished. They're dehydrated. Kendrick, they found the body. They took the body in for the autopsy. They found out that his injuries were from a homicide. This is not for you. If you don't want to hear some disgusting things, turn it off. Don't watch. He had been beaten. He had been kicked, punched, repeatedly stomped on. The boys witnessed this. He stomped on him and stomped on him until his eyes turned black, until he quit breathing. Then he proceeded to cover him with a blanket and leave the room. When they found the boy's body, he had barely any hair left. He had began to skeletalize. These poor boys and that poor baby. The other little boy, now he was the one that was autistic. He was the 7-year-old. He had skull fractures from 3 weeks ago from a previous visit that they had done where the boyfriend had abused him and actually broke his jaw, and they didn't seek medical treatment. I don't know about you, but if you've even had a cracked tooth or a toothache, the pain that little boy endured for 3 solid weeks is just, I'm sickened. Cases with children sicken me. Okay, so 2 days after this all happened, they finally decide to go and arrest Gloria Williams and her gangster wannabe boyfriend. Do you want to know where they find them at? They find them at the Houston Public Library. They were there looking up newspaper articles and articles on the computer of themselves, trying to see if they had found a cause of death on the son, seeing, what they were talking about in the press about them. That's where they arrested them. They brought them in. They've arraigned them separately. They were both indicted. He was given $1 million in bail. Initially, she was given $900,000 in bail. But then the prosecutor came and said, that's ridiculous. So then they set her bail at $1.5 million. Now let me tell you something. They have not been tried yet. They're backed up from COVID. They haven't been tried. They haven't been convicted. These kids have not gotten justice yet. They're just sitting back in jail eating, and having electricity and getting to take a shower and getting to flush a toilet. And I think it's disgusting. And I may sound really harsh, but you don't do that to kids. Like, give them away. Give them away like you did your daughter. Do something. This really has hit me hard, this one. And I knew about it, but it's really hard for me sometimes to dig into these cases about children because of my love for kids. I've spent, my whole life pretty much taking care of my own children, being a mother, and taking care of, other people's children and teaching them. I've been a teacher since my youngest daughter, Isabel, was 3 years old, and she's going to be 23. So, that's been my life for a very long time. So it really pisses me off when I just keep seeing these things happen over and over and over. And it always, they're victims because they're just so innocent. I always say evil people pick on the people, they pick on elderly people, young children, and pets. Those are always the people they go to. They're innocent, they can't defend themselves, and it makes me really, really sick. Okay, so now they're wondering if the children went to school. Well, they find out that two of them were enrolled in school. Okay, so they were enrolled in school, and so they went to the school. I believe it was Alief School District. Now, let me just tell you right now, I've been a teacher for 18 years. I've taught kindergarten, I've taught first grade, I've taught second grade, I've taught third grade. I have not taught since my daughter passed away, but I have dealt with various types of schools. I work at a Title I schools, which means that I choose to work. I love these kids at the poverty level school districts. They get free lunches, they get free breakfasts. These kids, I have dealt with CPS daily at the schools that I've worked at. Daily. I have had to follow through with CPS. I have had nothing but a nightmare. Here in Houston, we need help. We need a lot of help because CPS is not cutting it. They have failed many, many, many families, many children. I have a direct relationship with CPS on a personal matter where they failed me and my family. And I'm going to tell you, when you're in a school, it is very hard as a teacher. So they tried to blame it on school. Well, the school had taken 2 truancy claims out on this mother for not bringing her 2 children to school. Now you ask, she had 6 kids or 4 kids living with her. Why weren't they enrolled? Well, if she does not enroll those kids, we don't know about those kids. Nobody knows. As a matter of fact, this is what happens a lot of times. When the rent becomes due, these parents will up and move apartment complexes. A lot of times they will not come and unenroll their child. We don't know where they go. So if I'm at school and I see something like there's neglect happening, there's bruises happening, this child's telling me things that are not okay, I pick my phone up, I dial CPS, I file a complaint. Okay, CPS is supposed to come up to the school and pull that child out of school and talk to the child, not go to the house and alert the parents. That's what they're supposed to do. It may take days, it may take weeks, it may take months, it may take all school year, if it happens at all. I have called several times on children that I know something is happening, and they never come. It's very frustrating. So maybe the school didn't call, maybe they did. But she was in trouble for not taking those kids to school. Another thing that happens, these parents will come and enroll their children and say, I'm homeschooling my child. Again, there's nothing you can do about it. They are entitled to homeschool their children. So then again, we've lost them. We've lost another child. I've gone as far as to call homes. Parents change their numbers. They're disconnected. They refuse to answer me. I send letters. I sent food home in backpacks with children. I'm telling you, I know when something's happening, but I can't go home with that baby. I know when a child has had a mark and I've stayed up at the school till late trying to get a hold of CPS, trying to see if they have gone to that home, and that baby doesn't come to school the next day or the next day or the next day, and I can't get a hold of anybody. And I am scared to death for those kids. And CPS doesn't have enough people, or in my instance, when I dealt with them in my own family, they straight up told me, it is 5 o'clock. I am done for today, ma'am. I will let you go. That's what I was told. I have a lot to say about CPS, but mostly what I will say is that they have failed a lot of children, not just these. Anyway, the school, I think that they probably tried, but I think that yet again, CPS failed. And I'll tell you a little later on why I know that they knew about these kids. Okay, so you're probably asking the same thing I asked. Is there a father in the picture? The answer is no. There is not a father in the picture, and from what I read, they all have different fathers. They did get a hold of William's maternal grandmother, and she did say that Williams and her boys, the ones she has custody of, the 4 boys, all lived with her for a matter of, in 2014. While she was with one of the boys' biological fathers. He was in jail at the time. She moved into her maternal grandmother's house while he was in jail. I'm not sure which boy it was. The maternal grandmother then said she had to ask her to leave because Williams was bringing all kinds of men into her home. And the maternal grandmother was sickened. She said, obviously she couldn't see the future. She said she would have taken the boys, she would have adopted them. She was so sad about what happened. Of course, hindsight's 2020. Of course she would have taken them in, poor lady. So, now she has 2 other children. She has 2 girls. Now she has a 13-year-old. That 13-year-old lives with her father's grandmother. Now, what happened with that, she was with that 13-year-old's dad. She took her initially when she was born. Okay, the grandmother did. And she had her. But when, Williams ended up taking the little girl back. And she got back with the little girls, the infants, the little girl's dad. And they moved to Louisiana, okay? Williams found out she was pregnant again. So when that little girl was 2, she did probably the best thing she could have ever done for that little girl. She reached back out to her grandma and said, "Can you take her? I'm pregnant again and I cannot raise her." And of course, the grandmother said, "Yes, give her to me. Thank you." So she got out. And she's been raised by her grandmother. Now, let me tell you what a good person this grandmother is. Williams had a 15-year-old daughter. And at this time, Williams was with the current boyfriend that beat her son to death. She had a 15-year-old daughter that was in the home, in the apartment complex with them when they all lived together. The 15-year-old daughter would witness the boyfriend beating up on her brothers. So she said that she came to their defense and she would stand up to him and say, "You know what? You're not going to do this to my brothers." Well, her mom said, "You're not going to stand up to him." She threw her out on the streets when she was 15 years old. She would live under bridges, park benches. Eventually, they picked her up and she went into the hospital, I believe, for some reason. Enter CPS. This is how I know CPS knows. CPS enters. The girl tells them what's happening. The only place the little girl can say that she knows anybody, any family, is where her sister's at. Her sister's being raised by her grandma. So this grandma agrees to take in the 15-year-old daughter and raise her along with her granddaughter. What an angel. But this is what I'm telling you. CPS knew what was happening right there. Right there. When they brought that little girl and she told them and they made a report and they placed her in that home with her grandmother. Sorry, not even her grandmother. With her sister. They knew what was happening in that house. Another forgotten case. Way to go, CPS. Way to go. As you can tell, I thought about going to work for CPS, but I feel like it's so corrupt. I wouldn't last a day there. So the 2 sisters would often try and talk to their little brothers, but the mother wouldn't allow it. And the sisters would also try and FaceTime the brother, the 15-year-old, and they said it was always very dark. I imagine this is around the time that the mother was no longer living there, and it was dark. And at the time, also, the brother was dead. And the brother said he didn't want to tell the sister that the brother was dead because he feared for her as well. So this 15-year-old little boy has taken on the burden of protecting everyone in his family. I can't imagine. It's so very sad. Now, I did read where most of William's children's fathers are deceased. She did marry a man that she had met in a shelter. His family did come forward. He passed away as well, but they did say that they did know the children and that their son, the one that was with Williams, loved all of those kids so very much, and that they prayed that they found a good home for them. But they were so distraught by losing, their own son that, they were still trying to heal from that. But at one point, it's good to know that they did have someone that loved them in their lives for a short time. Okay, wait, I forgot something. Remember when I told you the parents moved out of that apartment and left them there? Well, they moved 15 minutes away. And in their apartment, it was fully furnished. And this is the sick part. This is sicker. I mean, all of it's sick. But this, the boyfriend, the evil boyfriend, Brian, has an Instagram. And I'm going to post some of his pictures, where he would prepare these big pots of spaghetti, and he would say, "Oh, this is for my family. We're eating good tonight." He had a tattoo. It was FOE, family over everything. He would always be there drinking glasses of wine. She said that he told her he was sorry for what he did. He lost control, and after that he lavished her with gifts all the time and brought her presents, and she basically forgave him. And so they're living the life, and he's over there pretending like he's feeding his family, and all these meals they're eating steak, and it's disgusting. It makes me very grossed out. So anyway, that's where they went. They just left and, took themselves and got themselves a great apartment. And you wonder how she's paying for it. Well, this lady was getting help through the state for her children that were autistic. And she was also getting help for lower income families. She was getting $2,000 a month plus extra help. I'm thinking food assistance and probably insurance and things like that the state of Texas gives people. And she wasn't using a dadgum thing for the kids, obviously. She was furnishing her lifestyle, and the food was obviously going to them, not to the kids. And no one bothered to check. That's what I'm really confused on that, because I'll say, like, at the beginning of the pandemic, everybody was going and getting some food help. And I put in for a little bit of food help at the beginning. Not a little after the beginning. My daughter passed. I had quit my job. I needed a little assistance, and I had my granddaughter, and they told me flat out, no, your husband works, no. And I was unemployed. And so I was like, well, this lady was getting all this freaking money, and they didn't even question her. The system's very broken, and I don't know how she was able to ride through it. I mean, it took this much of a tragedy for her to get caught. So I wanted to wrap this video up by saying, if you see something that's not right, if you feel like something is not right with a child, with an elderly person, even with an animal, if you feel like something's happening, call the authorities. Call them. Call someone to do a welfare check. Don't just sit back and say, I don't want to get involved, because it can be anonymous. A lot of people did say the neighbors said they did not want to get involved. You don't have to get involved. You can give an anonymous tip and say, look, And you know what? Don't stop. This is what I always tell my kids. Don't stop telling. Don't stop telling. Keep telling. Keep telling someone. And if you don't want to give up, keep telling, keep calling, keep calling, keep calling until someone does something. Now, I have said I don't have a lot of faith in CPS because I've had a lot of instances where they have failed. Not everybody's bad. I did run across a wonderful CPS worker that I worked with for a while. She was great. She wasn't in it for the money because there's no money there. She was in it for the kids. And she actually told me, that it was a very shady place. And so report to CPS, but report to authorities as well. Just cover all your bases. But please don't stand by and say someone else is going to do it, because they may not. Make a difference. Stand up for that little kid. Stand up for that elderly person. Stand up, because this shouldn't have to happen this day and age. If something seems off, it's better to be safe than sorry. It's better to be safe than say, I wish I would have. I wish somebody would have stood up for these boys. I wish so bad. But thankfully, they're safe now. They've got a lot of healing to do, and I hope they get that. And I hope they can become, productive members of society. And I think that they can. Children are very resilient, and they do seem to come back, and, maybe they're going to grow up and they're going to make a big difference in somebody else's life because of what they've gone through. I know that's what I'm going to try and do in some future videos when I talk about the things that I've gone through. I know I keep saying I'm going to do it, but my granddaughters watch my videos, so I want to be really careful when I do start sharing some of those things. But meanwhile, I'm going to stick to some true crime. I do want to do a Ask Me Anything type thing. I don't know if anybody would be interested in it. If you are, let me know. If not, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to hear more videos, you could subscribe to my channel. Anyway, do something nice for yourself. Self-care is so important. Mental health for yourself, just take care of yourself. You're important, okay? I know we always take care of everybody else, but take care of you because you're important too. Thank you for watching, and next week I plan on 2 videos coming out, so I hope that you will join me next week. Thank you guys. I'll see you next time.